Tomorrow, the 7th episode of Better Call Saul's 5th season premieres. I am very far behind in videos because it's taking me so long to do each one. The first episode, I think it took me 10 to 12 days to do. And then this second episode, I still have not figured the theme out to. I've considered several times just moving on. And I mean, I have some idea of what the theme is. And I've considered just moving on with the idea that I have. But there's two reasons why I haven't. What the theme told us so much in the first episode. We talked about everybody being in a tunnel in the first episode in tunnel vision, how there was danger coming that people couldn't see because they were in tunnels. By the 5th episode, Mike actually says, I'm in a tunnel, and Jimmy tells Kim that danger's coming. Their themes give us so much information. They work so good with the theme that I just decided it's well worth putting the time into to figure out the theme for each episode. In the second episode, there's a big thing that they're telling us, which I'll get to in a second. And that's why I want to really nail down the theme in the second episode before I do a video for it. But that's not going to happen. I have to move on. So I'm going to go through with what I found in the second episode so far today. And I figured this is actually pretty decent because it's going to kind of give you an idea of what I do to find the theme, because they don't just jump out at me. They rarely do. They're usually hidden fairly well, and I have to search for them. I'm G, and this is the G Spot. Let's talk about what I found in the theme so far for episode 2. Part of my struggle in figuring out this theme is there is a strong theme for the season, this season, and it's so strong. I'm trying to work around it and figure out what's the theme of the episode and how's that tie into the theme this season and how do I separate them. It's just a lot. They're telling us so much this season. This season is huge. It's huge. It's huge. There's so much that they're doing. Like one thing that they're doing is trails. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of trails throughout the season in several different episodes. Sticky and Ron, the two 50% off bozos that go on a crime spree, they have a trail of lottery tickets. We see them when they're running out of the store, and then they're hanging out of their car later at the end. Jimmy has left a trail with the two 50% off bozos. Jimmy leaves a trail with his ice cream cone that he drops. Kim makes a trail of beer bottles the night she comes home and whips them off the porch. There may even be more examples of trails that I'm not thinking of right now, but there are a lot of trails in this season. Now, the interesting thing is Kim cleans up her trails. She cleaned up the beer bottles after she threw them. And in episode 6, Wexler versus Goodman, when she tells Jimmy she wants to put the brakes on the whole thing when he's shooting the commercial, she insists that she goes inside and cleans up because Kim picks up her trails. But Jimmy doesn't. As a matter, if we go to the beer bottle, Jimmy says to Kim, that's what you pay rent for, don't bother cleaning it up. But Kim cleans it up anyways. This is a significant difference between the two of them. And I think we're seeing all these trails because the things that I've picked up on for the theme are there's a lot of messes, there's a lot of invading, there is a lot of space, also facing the truth. Busting in and out is also throughout the entire episode. Sticky and Ron are busting in and out of places. They're also busting open car windows. We see that Jimmy busts in on Kim. Kim, we could say that she's busting into the closet, but there's a lot of busting in and both out. There's a lot of in and out. Poker game at Nacho's. The camera is outside at first and then inside. And the same thing in the first scene with Kim and Jimmy, the camera's inside the closet to start and then outside. So there's a lot of in and out. When we first see Kim and Jimmy, the shot starts with Kim splitting the closet open because it's too full. It's full of Saul's clothes. In this scene, we also see that Jimmy is in the corner and he's ironing and he drops the phone. And Jimmy is kind of trapped in the corner there, and it's like Jimmy is trying to juggle Jimmy and Saul, but he's not really able to do it. It's too much for him, and we see him drop the phone. Jimmy is trapped in the corner, and we see that Kim is feeling trapped She's really got to, she whips those clothes open like she's making space for herself. And she does not interact openly with Jimmy throughout the scene. She's very closed off with him. She's looking for space from Jimmy. When she tells him that Coldfinger, as Jimmy calls him, which is a reference to a James Bond movie, Goldfinger, he's talking about Bobby, the fridge guy that we saw in episode 1, when Kim says he just took the deal. Kim lied to him to make him take the deal, but she does not bring that up to Jimmy because Kim needs space from Jimmy/Saul. So Kim is feeling trapped by Saul, as all of Saul's clothes that are in her closet. Jimmy is also trapped by Saul. We see him trapped in the corner of the bedroom. So he asks Kim if she's interested in a movie night. That's their big thing. And she's too busy. So Jimmy senses this whole thing, this whole cold shoulder from Kim. After she leaves, Jimmy runs out and jumps in her car. And now Jimmy jumps in the car and he's trapped Kim again. So Kim was trapped, feeling trapped in the bedroom. And now he has Kim trapped, and Kim's trapped in the driver's seat. Okay, so they get to the house, and you can see Jimmy is giving a pitch to Kim. He is selling Kim at this moment. In a way, he's treating her like a sucker. We know that he's selling Kim at this moment in the car because he has that look on his face. He's waiting for her to get the hook. And when she does, you could see it. Now, if you watch through that scene, you could see his reaction. He's very evident, very obviously selling Kim at this moment. The other thing is Jimmy also lies to Kim, tells her, I have 45 clients. And she says, Jimmy, how are you going to handle it? And he says, don't worry, I have a system. But Jimmy doesn't have a system. They go in the house. And again, now we're in a house with an extreme amount of space. Jimmy, again, he's right in his pitch right off the get-go. And he talks about how they can make the house their own. And look at all the space and big screen TV and movie nights and all this. And then it's interesting because what they're going to do in this house is they're going to continue to walk deeper into the house throughout the scene. So then Jimmy points out the quartz countertops and talks about how they have healing qualities. And at this point, the response from Kim is obvious, that she feels like the sucker. She feels like Jimmy is selling to her at this point. She says something like, oh yeah, such healing power. She says it so sarcastically, kind of like she's a little sick of Jimmy's lines. Again, Jimmy is really sensing all this distance from Kim in this episode. And so he decides at this point that he's going to try to be honest with her. And he tells her that he made the 50% offer. But he doesn't really tell her the truth. He tells her a half-truth. That's what Jimmy does. And I'm not sure if Kim realizes it's only a half-truth. I don't think she cares at this point. I think she knows that it's very possible that it's only a half-truth, but she would never get Jimmy to tell her the full truth. So Kim does what she has always done. This is extremely significant. Kim's response to Jimmy at this point, Kim looks at Jimmy and says, okay. That's, I've always considered that part of Kim's superpower, her ability to always look at Jimmy and say, okay, no matter what he's saying to her. But I don't know, I think it's going to start getting her in trouble. But anyways, okay, so after the kitchen, they go deeper into the house. Now, the Kim is in an empty room where she has a lot of space. She's by herself. Saul is more towards the doorway. And she says, I don't want to lie to my clients. Jimmy says, oh, you mean Coldfinger? Kim says, any of my clients. So again, this is Kim's way of avoiding the truth. But it's, I think we need to note that Kim was able to express at least a half-truth and to try to put Jimmy into some kind of boundary while she's in this empty room with a lot of space around her. They continue to go deeper into the house. Kim says, wow, Jimmy, you would love this huge closet. Jimmy says, we would love this huge closet, or it's our closet, something like this. This is a big thing with Jimmy and Kim. Kim is always saying you and I, me and you. Jimmy is usually saying we. They go deeper into the house and we get into the bathroom. Now it's interesting to watch their interaction in the bathroom. They talk about brushing their teeth. Brushing teeth is huge with Jimmy and Kim. It's a big part of their relationship for us. It communicates to us where they are in their relationship. In this whole scene, they're a little playful in the bathroom, talking about brushing teeth and having 2 sinks and a room. They have room to spit, all this stuff. It all occurs in the mirror. It's all a reflection, this whole scene. Very similar to the scene in the bedroom, the opening scene with Jimmy and Kim. While Kim is actually talking to Jimmy, while they're talking about Coldfinger, we only see Jimmy through the mirror. And that's how Kim looks at him, through the mirror. So what Kim is doing right now is she's not really in this relationship. The relationship doesn't really exist for her. It's some kind of reflection or some kind of image of what she wants the relationship to be, what she wishes it was, or what it once was in the past. I'm going to go with what it once was in the past. That's what Kim is seeing in the relationship. She realizes that what they had is gone. And specifically this part in the bathroom where they're like enjoying each other, that enjoyment is just part of the past. It's not part of the present. So anyways, they move through the bathroom. Jimmy gets to the shower. Jimmy traps himself in the shower, and he has nowhere to move, and Kim gets him all wet. Jimmy's all wrong about thinking that this house is the right move for him and Kim. Jimmy's all wrong in thinking Kim needs more physical space. And that's the whole thing behind this, is Jimmy feels if he gives Kim the physical space that she needs so that they don't have to share a closet and they live in a bigger place than Kim's small apartment, that Kim will be happy. But Kim doesn't need physical space. Kim needs space from Jimmy. So Jimmy was all wet by the end of the house showing because Jimmy was wrong in thinking that Kim needed space to be happy in the relationship. Kim needs space from the relationship. Nacho's, it opens up in Nacho's apartment. Now there's two messes in Nacho's apartment, one in the kitchen and one in the coffee table and the TV room. But in general, the apartment's pretty clean. It's like Nacho's keeping his messes separated and isolated. That's what he thinks he's doing. Nacho has two girlfriends. One is on the couch and the other is in bed with him. Now it's interesting, we see two women, we see two messes, and Nacho is involved with two crime families. He's involved with two crime families and one family, his father, okay? So, and Nacho believes that like the women and his messes, that his crime families, he's managed to keep them separate and isolated. But what we see happen is Tyrus and Victor come spilling in, crashing in. They invade Nacho's house. And they don't just invade his house, they end up in bed with him. Okay, so Nacho is not keeping things separated and isolated like he thinks he is. They are all spilling into each other. They force Nacho out of the bedroom, and Nacho's pleading. He's like, I did everything Gus asked, and you know, what could he possibly want? And Nacho's not facing any truths here. He's not facing the truth that he cannot keep the family separate. Specifically, Gus, that Gus is going to barge into his life any way he wants to. And Nacho is believing that he could satisfy Gus. He's never going to be done with Gus. Doesn't matter if he did what he was supposed to do. So they bring him to visit his father. And the first thing Nacho says, denial. No, 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 no. Because Nacho does not want to admit to himself that he has involved his father in all this. He says to Gus in the end, my father has nothing to do with this. And then Gus turns around and looks at him because he's going to make Nacho face the truth. So Gus faces Nacho. And the truth is that Nacho did get his father involved in all this because it's Nacho's family. And that's just, you can't keep those things separate. It's interesting too, the truck pulls up and there's a big space between the truck and the restaurant. And Nacho wants that space between his crime family and his father. But Victor takes that space right away. And Victor goes right in, even though there's 5 people in there already. That's what Tyrus says to him. And Victor says, I don't care. Again, there's this whole theme of too much or overstuffed. It's interesting, Gus looks at Nacho only through the mirror. I think Gus faces himself, and I think Gus does face the truth. That's part of what we were supposed to take out of there. But anyways, so Gus lets Nacho know that Nacho's not done, and he's going to do whatever Gus wants him to do. Later on, we see the poker game. Domingo gets his name, Crazy 8. I'm trying to tie the theme into that, and it's just difficult. But Nacho tries to make progress with Lalo during the poker game, but it doesn't work. This is kind of like a surface try that Nacho, it's just such small talk. kind of meaningless. And he's trying to get in. Lalo keeps him out. Lalo's really harsh to him. He shoots Nacho down pretty hard then. Sticky and Ron, they show up to Arlo and Mouse. They want the 10 bags. The 10 bags get caught in the pipe. Again, this idea of too much to fit with getting caught in the pipe. Arlo, Lalo, and Nacho are in the car. Mouse isn't there yet, but then Mouse comes running over, and Nacho has to make room for her to get in the car. I don't know what that's about either. It's just, why didn't the scene start with Mouse in the car? Like, they chose to have Mouse come into the car and have Nacho have to open the door and put the seat up and make room for Mouse to get in. So to me, it's significant, but I'm not sure how it fits in. And Lalo is stuck in the driver's seat. So this is interesting because Kim was stuck in the driver's seat before, and now Lalo is stuck in the driver's seat. Nacho runs into the rescue, right? He's gonna save the day. We see that Nacho has to bust into the house, and then Nacho has to bust out of the house. This Nacho thinks that he's taking steps to get out of the crime families, but he's actually just getting deeper in as he goes. And to end it all, Lalo makes Nacho face the truth one more time, and he makes him say that he would take care of Domingo if that's what Lalo felt he should do. But that's not what Lalo wants him to do. But Lalo did want him to say it. Lalo wanted to know that he would do that if that's what Lalo wanted. Mike in this episode, again, I'm not sure what to say about Mike and the theme, but the scene with Mike was pretty incredible. Mike walked into a trap. He doesn't realize he's walking into a trap. He thinks he's walking into a nice, peaceful situation that he could actually deal with. And maybe it'll be a break from the dark tunnel that he's been in. But the way that Haley asks him questions is just brutal. It's brutal. She says, my father was a police officer, right? And Mike says yes. And she says, he was a good police officer. And Mike has to say yes. And Maddie was a good police officer. Remember, it's Mike's guidance that made him bad. And she says, and you taught him? Okay. And Mike did teach him. And Mike says yes. And then she says, but the bad guys got him anyway. Oh, it's brutal. Because to Kaylee, she's saying, how could the bad guys have got him if my poppy taught my father how to be a police officer? Obviously, my poppy would have taught my father how to be the best police officer ever. But at this moment, Mike has to realize that, no, he didn't teach him how to be a good police officer. He taught him how to be a bad police officer. So it's a brutal, brutal scene. It's really well filmed and done. It's a great, great scene. So that was Mike, and Mike's, even deeper in the tunnel now. Mike's not having an easy time this season. Okay, but if we get back to Jimmy, we don't see Kim for the rest of the episode, but I want to get back to Jimmy because this is the big thing in this whole episode, which is, okay, there was a lot of busting in and trapping people in this episode. So Jimmy winds up trapping Suzanne in the elevator to get his way. So Saul traps Suzanne. So it's interesting. We've seen Saul trap 3 people this episode. Jimmy in the bedroom, Kim in the driver's seat, and Suzanne in the elevator. It's this habit that Saul has of busting in on people and, in a way, trapping them to get what he wants out of them. And again, if I could see this theme, I bet you I could say that much better. But we just have to say it like this. Now, why do I think any of that really matters? Why do I feel that that's so significant? Well, because at the end of the episode, Saul's walking outside with his ice cream cone that he's enjoying. I'm not sure how much that ice cream cone represents Kim and how much it doesn't. Him and Kim have had ice cream several times in the series. And now he's just having an ice cream cone by himself. So anyways, he has tons of space. He's outside. You understand? He has tons of space. Okay. Suzanne was trapped, and everybody else that was trapped was literally trapped physically. And Saul has no borders around him right now. Nacho comes pulling up beside him. Now, at this moment, Saul's on the phone saying that he was a night jousting for one of his clients, which, again, face the truth, Saul. No, you weren't. And why is it important to face the truth there? Because Saul's not a physical guy. Saul is not a knight or any type of soldier, but Nacho is. Saul may be able to trap people and talk his way out of any. We saw him in the courthouse earlier, and he was really working everybody in the courthouse. Saul's good with his mouth. He's not a soldier. And that's why when Nacho tells him to get in, Saul listens and he gets in. Saul ends up trapped at the end. If we go way, 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 way back to season 1, episode 1. It's not Saul at that point, but it's Slip and Jimmy. And it's important to remember Slip and Jimmy and Saul are the same person, okay? It's just Saul's a lawyer and Slip and Jimmy wasn't, but they're the same person. Season 1, episode 1. Jimmy gets the 2 skaters to try and get hit by, oh no, I forgot their names. The Kettlemans, by Miss Kettleman, so that Jimmy can get the Kettlemans as a client. And Jimmy, once things go wrong, he's pounding on a door. He's demanding to be let in. He's busting in this house, and it ends up being Tuco. So see, Jimmy just jumps into places. He did it with Kim and he just jumps in there, you know? And he did it with Suzanne in the elevator. He can't see in the elevator. The doors are almost shut, but Jimmy just shoves his arm in and he's going in, man. He just busts into places. And he's walking into traps, man. And he doesn't care. Now he thinks that the traps are for the other people, but he's trapping himself with them. He did it with Kim. He did it with Suzanne. He did it with Tuco in season 1. What they are showing us this season is literally the exact moments that took Jimmy McGill not only to Saul Goodman, but to Walter White. When Jimmy broke in on Tuco, he changed his life forever at that moment. He brought somebody into his life that is not going to leave him alone unless Jimmy truly stands up to him by using the law, and Jimmy's never going to do that. All right, so that's my video on episode 2 for now. I will go back and get that theme really nailed, but I do want to move on. There's way too much, really exciting stuff that is occurring this season, and I want to move on. So I hope you enjoyed the video. And do look this week for more videos from me. I will strive to put more up. And hopefully I will. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.